Hi everyone, Stepan here. Today I have two, very instructive positions for you. One of them is from a training game and it's not too hard. And the other one is one of the most beautiful endgame studies I've ever seen. I hope you don't know it. And I hope you will be able to solve it. Okay, so the rules are on the screen. Again, in the first position it's black to move, as you can see on the screen, and in the second position it's white to move. Solve them over a real board, time yourself. For the first position I would suggest 5 minutes. If you're rated below 1700-1800, take more time, but if you're over 1700-1800 FIDE, that is, or USCF or whatever your national rating is, then take 5 minutes. And yeah, good luck. Pause the video, set up the first position, see you in a minute. Okay, so this position is much better for black. In fact, it's already winning for black. I'd played a Caro-Kann in which my opponent didn't really know what to do. He responded to my knight e4 with king h2, pinning, all of this stuff. So there are a lot of tactical possibilities, and when you look at the features of the position, that's probably the most important one, that the e5 knight and the f4 pawn are pinned to the king. Okay, the other features in this position are the a4 knight, which is stranded, of course, and it wants to jump into c5. It's currently unable to jump into c3 because knight c3, knight takes on c3, and knight a5 would give white. It would give black a winning strategic advantage. Okay, another very important feature is the pawn on d4, which is loose in some positions, and another one is the pawn on c2, which also can be loose after, for example, queen to c7, exploiting both features. Okay, so what we are looking for here is the most efficient way to wrap this up and not to give black a single chance. First, I'll show you what I did, and what I did was suboptimal. In fact, it allowed white to equalize the position almost. So I blundered here. I didn't take enough time, and I didn't take the position too seriously. And I played what I thought was a very interesting move. I played pawn to f6. Now, this wouldn't be a bad move unless it undefends the e6 pawn, which of course is important considering that the queen is on e2. And once you combine all the factors in this position, the knight coming to c5, if the knight comes into c5, it's very likely that all of these are going to be, all of these are going to be gone. So the knight from e5 moves, the other knight jumps into c5, everything gets traded off, and all of a sudden the queen attacks the e6 pawn with check. Okay, so f6 not a good move. So he has a couple of options, but the only really normal one is knight takes on c6. All other moves are really not that good because I can follow up with e5 straight away, in which case f6 is an amazing move. So he takes. And my opponent blundered here. What he has to do is play knight c5. And after knight c5, it's pretty much equal. If I don't take, he's going to take, trading off my best piece. So I probably should take. And now here's the issue. If we exchange everything, as I said, this position, very equal. Very equal. Maybe black has a slight disadvantage even. I mean, this is just dreadful. Instead of that, after rook takes c6, my opponent played rook f3, which loses the game. And here I can play e5 straight away. I can play rook e8. I played rook e8, just defending e6, and here he played b4. I played queen to c7, and he resigned on the next move. I think he played king h1 or something, and I just took on c2. But now there's no more defense. So f6 did work for me. Unfortunately, my opponent had a way to, well, equalize or even get a better position. Of course, I wouldn't have taken on c5. So let's look for a better way to win this position. Two options which are always nice are knight takes e5 and bishop takes e5. Now, they seem somewhat counterintuitive, especially bishop e5, fe5. I mean, you're still better here because the knight on a4 is still stranded. However, not such a great move. Knight e5 also, d takes e5, bishop e7. Good position. The knight doesn't have a way back in, so it means that your knight on e4 is stable and permanent, and you're threatening to play b5, so white has an awkward decision to make, but still not optimal. The two best ways to play this, which lead to a clear win, one of them is hard to see probably, or harder to see than the other, and it's the engine line, which in the game I didn't even consider, and that's knight to e7. And that's an incredible idea. Knight e7 does a couple of things. Firstly, declines the trade on c6. Secondly, reinforces the c5 square. Thirdly, puts pressure on c2. Fourthly, attempts to bring the knight into f5, which in conjunction with something like queen h4 could be deadly. So for example, if knight c5, then you just take everything off. Okay, and this is a very simple position in which you have a blockade on f5. If he ever goes g4, then probably the position is lost. You're a clean pawn up and game over. If after knight e7 he doesn't play knight c5 and for example plays rook to c1, then just go knight f5, and he has to start defending the dark squares. So for example, bishop to f2 and f6, chase the knight away, knight to d3, maybe queen to c7 is good in this position, so putting pressure over here, and probably best is king g1, and now you can just take this one off. So this is an amazing position, but knight e7 very hard to see. A human way to win this position, and what I believe is optimal, which I hope you found, and it's not that hard to calculate, which is why I suggested only 5 minutes for this position as opposed to 15, which you usually get, is pawn to b5, and now there simply is no defense. Knight c6 fails because rook c6, and now you have to play knight c5, pawn c5, bishop c5, bishop c5, rook c5, c3, pawn up, amazing pawn structure, no weaknesses, the safest king in the world against 6 pawns, an unsafe king, and the bad pawn structure. You're going to be playing a minority attack, disrupt this pawn structure, put pressure on f4. Great position. So after b5, knight c6 doesn't work. The other two options don't work either. If knight to c3, then we have a very, very thematic strategic idea of simply taking, b takes, and knight a5. And now if white doesn't respond immediately with a4, then it probably could resign. So a4, and now rook takes c3, a takes b5, a takes b5, queen takes b5, and knight c4, and this is a tremendous position. So c2 is weak, the bishop is attacked, d4 is weak, f4 is weak, the king is weak, the knight is still pinned along the diagonal, and your knight on c4 and your rook are just perfect pieces. If this is taken, then the position is completely unsustainable. You could even consider moves like g5 and just breaking open the position, playing king h8 and rook g8. And the other option after b5 is knight c5, and this also simply fails, because now you don't take on c5, you take on d4, and taking is pretty much forced, and now bishop takes c5, bishop takes c5, rook takes c5, c3, and again we have a similar position. It's just that the knights have remained on the board, but your knight is better, and again, clean pawn up. So yeah, a very easy position compared to the other ones. I decided to give it to you because I'd messed it up, so maybe some of you would mess it up as well, even though you're my rating or higher rated. So I hope this helped. Okay, the second position. This, if you haven't seen it, you're going to love it. Okay, this is an endgame study composed by Emanuel Lasker sometime in the early 20th century. And yeah, pause the video, it's white to play. As you can see on the screen. See you in a minute, good luck. Okay, there is only one way to win this position. Black is threatening to queen at some point. White is also threatening to queen if he moves the king away. It's white's turn to move, so white can threaten that straight away. Let's just look at the bad moves first. If you play king d7, then king to b7 is an immediate draw. There is no more way to make progress. Shake hands, bye-bye. If you play rook h6 check, then king a7 again is an immediate draw, because your king cannot get to this side of the board, has to go out the other way. So if you try, for example, I don't know, if you play king d7, then he checks you. If you try moving your rook around with rook h3, then black simply waits. If you try king a3, then king b6, and no more way to win. There is only one way to win, and I did find it when I was analyzing this study. Took me about 20 minutes, so I wouldn't have solved it in the allotted time. Yeah, okay. So the way you win this is you use opposition to gain ranks one by one until you can get a winning pin. Okay, this sounds weird now, but I'll show you the pattern. And if you haven't solved the position, after I show you the pattern, pause the video again and try to solve it. Okay, so you start with king b8, threatening to queen. There is only one move, he has to play rook to b2 check. Okay, you play king a8, opposition. Okay, now, if the king steps to b6, you queen, so he has to play rook to c2. This is absolutely forced. And now the key idea, rook h6 check. Okay, now again, if the king steps to b5, then you play king to b7, you queen on the next move, he blocked the checks. So whenever we check the black king, he has to remain on the a file. And now what do? We defend the pawn with the king, king to b7. Again, we are threatening to queen, he has to check. So rook b2, king a7, we just gained one rank. So if you haven't spotted the whole study, pause the video here and just continue from here. I'm sure you will solve it now, but let's continue. Again, black only has rook c2. And now we continue, rook h5 check. Again, going to the b file fails because of rook b7 and rook queen, so he has to play king a4. Now we continue, king to b6, defending the pawn. He again has only one move, rook b2 check, king a6, we gained another rank. Again, has to play rook c2, rook h4 check, again king a3 forced, king b6, rook b2, king a5, we gained another rank. He again has to play rook to c2, no other move. Rook h3, king a2 again forced, and now the winning move, rook takes h2, and the rook is pinned to the king. All you had to do is bring the king to the second rank, play rook takes h2, and it's game over. Now of course black only has one move, and that's rook takes h2, c8 queen, and you win the position. Black resigns. This I thought was simply incredible. I mean, ideas like this will help you win actual games. I'm sure of it. Okay, thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you did manage to solve both positions. The second one was a bit harder than the first one, but still, I do hope you did manage to solve it. Let me know what you think about them. If you have any suggestions or ideas, please leave them in the comments below. I read all of them. And yeah, again, thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more chess. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.